Let's jump into this first story. You know, it's a tough call. Like, how in the weeds is this? Daily Caller sues Chicago mayor for limiting interviews to people of color. Basically, anti-white racism. That's what Tulsi Gabbard said, one of the only politicians with the guts to actually call out this fringe insanity. The Hill reports the Daily Caller News Foundation and one of its reporters is suing Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. The lawsuit filed in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Illinois accuses Lightfoot of ignoring an interview request from Thomas Kedenacci, a reporter for the publication, because he is not a journalist of color. The suit, filed by conservative government watchdog group Judicial Watch, claims Lightfoot violated Kedenacci's First Amendment and equal protection rights. The mayor's office has not yet filed a legal response to the suit, according to a federal court electronic records database. Quote, the city has not had the opportunity to review the complaint and has not yet been served, the Chicago Department of Law said when asked about the suit. Kedenacci referred questions about the suit to Judicial Watch. Defendant is aware that plaintiff Kedenacci is not a journalist of color, and defendant has denied plaintiff's interview request pursuant to her announcement that she will only grant interview requests from journalists of color, the suit states. The lawsuit asks the court to force Lightfoot to give Kedenacci an interview and also pay the plaintiff's attorney's fees and litigation costs. I think it's a good thing. I think this is the kind of thing that people need to be doing more of. So far, it seems like now outside of the Daily Caller, James O'Keefe and Veritas are the only ones who are really filing these lawsuits, challenging the insanity, but they're too often getting away with this stuff. Now, I also would like to point out the absurdity of, like, if he wins, he gets to interview Lori Lightfoot. So she'll just be like, screw you. I guess she'll pay for it.
Why didn't she just say no? I don't want to talk to that guy. Why did she have to make it about race in the first place?
Well,
because she's racist.
Yeah, exactly.
Why didn't she keep it to herself?
She tried to make this whole PR move where she was like, I will only be interviewing. I don't even think it's just POC. I think she said specifically black and brown, or like black and Latinx or whatever. I don't think she's including Asia. Sorry, Tim. We won't be interviewing Lori Lightfoot. She was trying to make it into this look how progressive thing I am. So that's why she didn't just say no. It's because it was part of she was trying to score woke points, and now she's being sued. So you get what you deserve.
But this kind of stuff we're seeing in government is just, you know, I want to talk about this because we recently saw that other lawsuit where the guy, he sued Biden because Biden's doing this relief program for COVID, but not to white people.
Right.
And then there's another program where farmers can get like a debt repayment, but not to white people. Mm-hmm. So, you know what this is? You know, this seems to me. They found a way to enact their critical race theory agenda without going through the normal channels, because the normal channels would block them. They're still doing it. If they said, we want to take all of the wealth from white people and give it to non-white people and create a communist utopia and reset the system, it's not going to fly. But if they say, oh, you know, we're going to help everyone get their business up and running, but we're only giving money to, you know, certain races, then they're doing some kind of, it's insane, ideological manipulation of the system for some kind of social outcome.
Well, I mean, it's systemic racism. I support anyone who's suing on the grounds that the government is telling you aren't eligible for a certain benefit or whatever, specifically because of your race. And this is exactly what the left likes to talk about all the time, right? Systemically racist policies. They talk about things like redlining and Jim Crow, which, yes, we're racist, but the answer to balance it out is not, you know, just throw in a little bit of anti-white racism to counteract the anti-black racism, and so then everything's okay. It's like, no, that's not the answer.
Communism. It's increasingly, I mean, you know, a lot of people have mentioned like cultural Marxism and stuff, but I mean, you look at what's going on with the State Department. They're putting up these flags, the embassies or whatever.
Yeah, BLM flags.
BLM flags, pride flags. I'm like, those flags don't represent the country. It is a cult ideology, is absolutely ingrained in our government right now. And I don't know how you get that out. That's an ideological stink. Lawsuits is good. Filing a suit. I don't think, you know, in the end, him getting an interview will really change anything. But pushing back against the racism is important.
Well, and I think half of the battle is really just awareness, because for the longest time, I would say at least the past 4 or 5 years, this kind of stuff has been brewing and most people didn't know about it, right? The normies, the everyday people who aren't really politically engaged. And if we look at what's happening with all of these different states banning CRT in schools, Lydia and I were talking about this earlier. The only reason why that's happening now versus a couple years ago when it started is because now parents actually know about it, because they were doing Zoom classes from home with their kids and they were actually looking over the material maybe for the first time. So it's like with this Lori Lightfoot thing, the lawsuit is important because at least now the people in Chicago will know, like, hang on, my mayor thinks this is a good idea. Like, what?
I don't think anyone's gonna care a whole lot. I just think this could set precedent. There's some pushback, but for the schools, I mean, think about what that means. For years, for a generation, parents never paid attention to what you don't ask your kid, what did you learn in school today?
Yeah.
I remember when I came back from school when I was a little kid, it's like, what did you learn? I was like, I learned about, when I was a little kid, my mom, she was very progressive for this generation. I come back from school and she asked me what I learned. And I mentioned something about Christopher Columbus, 1492, sailing the ocean blue. He discovered America. My mom was like, there were already people here. And I was like, yeah. It's like, yeah, the Native Americans. I was like, yeah. She's like, so they discovered America. And I was like, oh. Okay.
Did she tell you about Leif Erikson?
Yep.
The Viking?
That's right.
That always blew
so
my
it's
mind.
so it's like I never understood why schools were always lying. But here's I guess I'm lucky. I have a parent who asks me what was going on in school, and then she can give me better information. Today, parents don't care. They're not raising their kids.
And it's insidious.
sad.
Like it's slid in. To be honest, I don't know because I haven't been to school in a while. But I would imagine that it's slid into like it's not what they're teaching. It's just part of like the base of what's being taught. Like they'll put it in the book and the I don't know. I haven't been to school in a while, but I imagine that it's not like the overt lesson every time. It's just
it's worse than that. So I saw this one math problem. So remember, you used to get the train leaves New York traveling at 65 miles an hour.
Another train leaves traveling at whatever miles per hour.
So I saw one where it was like, Jamal is a black man who gets stopped by police 17 times in 1 week, and Rick is a white man who gets stopped by 7 times. What percentage of the police stops were? Seriously, that's the kind of stuff. So it's part of the ideology. It's to have it be every facet of their understanding of the world. I think, I'm hoping kids reject this kind of stuff, because when I was a little kid, I rebelled. Kids rebel, and I hopefully the institutionalization of the cult actually makes younger people reject it. But imagine how creepy it's going to be when, look, man, somebody posted on Reddit. It was like a meme where it's like, kid, I'm 10 years old, and you're like, so what? It's like, I was born in 2011, and you're like,
gross.
Oh man,
I don't like that.
Wow. Yeah, like you're talking to someone who was born in 2014, and people are like, what year is it? Wow, time flies. Oh. Yeah, so in 20 years from today, you're going to have people in Congress who are raised on all of this stuff, ingrained in their minds, and their worldview will be absolute racism.
Well, I mean, that's why it's important, I think, that they're actually doing something to address it. Banning it. And I was just seeing there was this little Twitter skirmish between Michael Malice, who I'm a huge fan of, and I think Kathy Young. There are people arguing that you don't really support free speech if you want to ban CRT from schools. And it's like,
was that Kathy Young saying that?
I think she was on the side of the person who didn't want it to be banned, right? Who was saying like, well, the right are just SJWs too because they're trying to ban this.
Isn't it funny how she always does that?
Yeah, I thought so a little bit. I've interviewed her before, and it was about something that I was on her side of, but I don't see how you can compare not wanting to fund what is obviously an ideological bent for young children with trying to cancel people or being an SJW.
When they used to complain about, and they still do, especially if you go on Reddit, religion in schools.
Right.
It's like, yes, get the ideology out of the education. Now it's the left putting an ideology into education, and we're still saying, no, you shouldn't do that. But these people are acting like that's acceptable and that should be done.
Right. And I don't think they see the difference. It's like no one on the right now in mainstream is arguing that there should be, Christian funded education mandatory in all schools. Because I think America has accepted that they don't want to do that. But when it comes to CRT and the left's ideology, for some reason, well, that should fall under free speech. It's like, no, like you were saying, if we're getting ideology out, it should be all ideologies. Someone
needs to start the Church of Critical Theory. That way it's a religion now. Like someone filed the paperwork and now you can't have it in schools.
Yeah.
They don't even bother with trying to get it banned. But a bunch of states are banning it, so I guess it's a good thing. I don't know. I feel a bit nihilistic on it. A bit pessimistic. Like, oh, here we go again. It's just going to keep happening.
That's how I felt last night. If you get to the kids, you brainwash the kids that you can, and then you don't even see the results for 20 years or 15 years. That's the problem. We don't realize the damage we're doing.
No, they do. Well, yeah, they like it.
They don't think of it as damage.
Yeah, they think of it as victory, winning.
Changing.
Isn't it amazing? Remember when that Republican lady was like, she I'm not going to quote her. She said something about that guy from, Germany, and how she claimed that him going after the kids was a good tactic, but she said it in a very, very different way. I won't repeat. Yeah, she said it in a very crude way, and all of a sudden the media erupted like, how dare you say that about that man? It's like, yeah, you shouldn't. But she was talking about how the Nazis went after kids.
Yeah.
And indoctrinated kids.
The Hitler Youth.
Right. And now it's really funny because I said it yesterday, I'll say it again. when people always ask, like, how did it get to the point where people were standing in the streets doing the Nazi salute? And I'm like, the people are marching around doing the red salute right now. Like, you don't even need to ask the question. Just look around you. It's happening. And you know what? People always think it can't happen here. And then it does happen here.
It can happen anywhere.
But it's not going to be overnight.
I don't know about that. I used to think, slippery slope takes time. It's not going to be overnight. Look at what happened with COVID. Look at how quickly it became the norm to actually call the police on your neighbors for having people over. That took a year, like less than a year.
My favorite thing was like how quickly the police started enforcing things that weren't the law. Mm-hmm. It's like, there's no law saying you have to stay in your house. And they're like, well, the governor said so. I'm like, I'm sorry. Do you follow the Constitution and the law or just like what the governor tells you to do?
Right.
Yeah.
And all of these cops were just like with smiles on their faces, beating and arresting people. There's a video. It's really amazing, man. Reddit is awesome. You ever go to Reddit?
I can't stand it.
I know. That's why it's awesome. It is. It's like
really something.
it's looking into like the mirror dimension. It's like just parallel paranoid reality. There was a video where it's a woman having a breakdown over masks. And she's just screaming like, I am done with this. I am done being bullied. The CDC data says, and then the cop grabs her and arrests her. And the people are cheering, calling her a Karen. And I'm like, she was citing CDC data and the cop arrested her. Dude, the younger generation that's on these platforms, whether it's sock puppets manipulating them, it is becoming 1984 ultra cult authoritarian. It's creepy.
It is creepy. And even with the mask thing, we were talking about this earlier. I mentioned online, I see people in cities walking around by themselves wearing masks, and it's not like there's anyone near them. And I asked why on social media people are doing that, and I had all these people saying, well, it's to express my concern for others because I care. So I got a lot of people saying it's to express something, meaning that it is a virtue signal. It's a social signal that you're showing that you care.
You saw David Hogg, right?
No.
He tweeted he didn't want people to think he was a conservative.
Oh my goodness. So he's wearing a mask because of that. Yeah.
That's what he said.
It's a social signaler now. So it's either you're doing this just for woke virtue points, or we've been so hyped into this fear, this hysteria by the media that people actually think it's this deadly that even if you're not sick, the other person isn't sick, you're outside, you're not near each other, you could still spread it? What?
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.